Good evening, listeners. You're tuned in to the ghostly broadcast, Paranormal Station. I am your host, Timothy. From my farm, I share the testimonies of others who have glimpsed beyond the pale of our ordinary realm to bring you the extraordinary. The nocturnal world is alien and liminal to us. While most of us sleep soundly at night, many are awake to labor and toil in the darkness. These 4 testimonies come from such people who work long night shifts in the witching hours. Our first story. Dear Timothy, my name is Paulo, and I work as a night guard at one of the cable car stations in La Paz. It's a decent job, if not a little boring. At least it was boring until I had a run-in with something that I can't explain. On weekdays, the cars stop running after 9 p.m. My shift finishes before the station opens, and they start running again, so I never actually see the cars running. This made it all the more surprising when I heard the clunks and windings of motors and cables in the middle of the night. As I scrambled around the station, looking for an emergency stop button in the control room, a car pulled onto the platform and stopped. The door opened, and amazingly, someone got out. This was around 3 in the morning, so whoever had been in the car would have been hanging above the city for hours. I stepped out of the control room and walked towards the figure in the dark. I called out to them and asked them how they got there. They didn't answer. I inched closer, taking the flashlight from my belt and turning it on. I aimed the beam of my flashlight at the floor, then moved it up so I could see their face. It was a woman. She was pale and clammy with eyes that were empty of anything, just blank gray cue balls and sockets. She stared through me like I wasn't even there. I stepped closer and gazed at her in the light. She was statue still. Then she took a step forward. Her sudden move made me jump backwards, but she moved so quickly that she was on top of me. Another step, and I felt cold, icy tendrils moving through my chest. My breath was taken by their hard grips on my lungs and heart. It felt like death. Then it was gone. She had walked right through me. When I turned around, I saw her descending the platform stairs towards the exit. I was quivering. I shook like I'd been out in the cold for hours. I composed myself to follow her, but she had disappeared when I looked down the stairs. I checked the CCTV footage to see if I wasn't losing my mind, but the data was corrupted. I could see the cable car moving to the platform, and then it cut to me, clutching my chest next to an open cable car. Regardless, I showed it to the security coming on shift in the morning. When the shift manager for the day team watched the footage, he didn't seem too surprised. He asked if I'd seen a woman, one with dark hair and gray eyes. I said yes, and asked how he knew. He pulled me to one side and explained it to me. He said, "Paulo, in the 9 years we've had this cable car system running, no one has died. Before you ask, I don't know who this woman is, how she died, or why she uses the cars. Whoever she is stuck. Somehow, she is up in the air, so to speak, neither falling to earth nor rising up to heaven. If you see her again, it's best to just let her be. The car movements will be logged as brake tests." After that, he told me to go home, get some sleep and forget all about it. I tried to, but getting her out of my head was so hard. The poor soul trapped in an eternal journey. I keep an eye out for her during my shifts now, but I haven't seen her since. I hope that she has moved on. I hope she has reached her final stop, but at least from what my colleague told me, it doesn't seem likely. Maybe one day I'll know her story. In the meantime, thank you for listening, Timothy. Yours, Paulo. Thank you, Paulo, for sharing your testimony with me and my listeners. As the spirits transit between our planes of existence, it seems only fitting that they find themselves tied to our modes of mortal transport. Here is our next story from Bogota, Colombia. Dear Timothy, they say the dead don't speak, but they don't lie either. So the old saying goes. My name is Patricia, and I work at the University Hospital in Bogota. I work in the mortuary, and it's my job to facilitate the transfer of remains to families, loved ones, and funeral homes. I take a lot of pride in my work. It's good to know that during that time of limbo, between dying and being laid to rest, I had a hand in helping them along their journey. However, there was one night that I wasn't prepared for that almost made me rethink my entire career. I know that none of us are prepared for death. For all the older people who come through our doors, plenty of young, vibrant souls have been taken before their time. I met one such soul one night before closing up. As I was about to leave for the night, I saw a man standing in the waiting area. I told him he wasn't allowed to be here and would have to consult the registrar in the morning if he had come in for an identification. That's when he turned to me. All he said was a name: Jorge Gomez. I saw tears in his eyes, and he said he had to be sure the man had died. I empathized with him as I do with everyone who comes down here. Not everyone is as used to death and its random, ubiquitous nature. I called him back and took him to the body. I pulled Jorge from the drawer and gently peeled back the sheet covering his face. To my shock, it was the same face as the man standing next to me. He started to wail and cry. At first, I wondered if he was a twin until he began to beat his head and say, "No, no, no, I'm not dead," repeatedly. I was in shock myself. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I let him calm down, and I reached out with my arm to try and comfort him. My hand fell right through his arm. We both stared at each other in horror. What do I do? I've got a wife and a little baby boy. I can't leave them," he begged. I told him that I didn't know. I didn't have any answers. He wept over his body, and I looked on helplessly. After a while, his sobbing subsided. He swallowed hard and said, "I have to go, don't I?" he asked. I'm afraid so," I stammered. He turned and asked me if I could do something for him. I said, of course. He told me that deep in his wallet was a foreign coin, a little memento from when he and his wife first met. He asked if I would give it to her personally and tell her that he thought of her and their son in the end. I told him to wait a moment while I went to find it in his personal effects. By the time I'd returned with the coin, he was gone. His body was all that remained. The next day, his wife came to identify him. It was everything that I'm used to and more. Naturally, she was distraught. When the worst of her cries had passed, I leaned in to comfort her. I gave her the coin and told her that her husband didn't suffer and that in the end he thought only of her and their son. I don't know what happens after we die, no more than anyone else does, Timothy. I wanted to share this story because death is a natural part of life and we will always leave something behind. I am just grateful that I got to help one more soul along their journey. Take care, Timothy. Patricia. Thank you, Patricia, for sharing that inspiring testimony with us. Our next story comes from Patagonia, the end of the world. Dear Timothy, I'm Ignacio, and I was born and raised in Argentina, Patagonia, for my entire life. My family have been gauchos for generations, and I am no exception. We roamed these untamed lands for their pastures, until my grandfather settled onto a ranch where we have worked as a family ever since. Now we raise cattle and horses and guide tourists around the wilderness. It's a simple life that I hope to pass on to my children when I get around to having some. We are a dying breed, but we persist. The reason that I'm writing to you is that our work is constant. We work day and night, no matter the weather or circumstance. One particular night, I was riding along the range, looking for my older brother and the group he had been guiding. There is an old folk legend in this part of the world, one that pertains to a fickle spirit that resides in the mountaintops. It is carried by the wind itself. We call it Malin. Malin blew hard that night. Trees were felled, and the horses were terrified. Despite my father's protests, I was headstrong and foolish. I braved the whirlwind to ensure my brother and his group were okay. The burning wind and dust blasted into my eyes as the darkness fell. Still, I carried on the trail, determined to find them. It was as if the more I persisted, the more I was being pushed back by the wind. Even my horse was starting to get skittish. I refused to give up, and for a brief moment, the wind subsided, and ahead of me, the trail seemed to appear behind the moving curtain of sleet and snow. A twister of wind struck the dirt path before me, and my horse reared in fright. The dust kicked up and formed into the shape of a giant bird. It flapped its great wings and blustered me with such a strong force that I was almost unsaddled. It dived towards me and stuck me hard on the head. I felt a numbing, cold chill of brain freeze that paralyzed me for a few moments. At that, I didn't know if I was hallucinating or if the cold would claim me. I had to turn around. I would have been no use to anyone. The more I descended the mountain path, the more the wind seemed to subside. A small collection of lights revealed the way ahead in the darkness before me. I had found my brother and his group. When I arrived, they were already settled into their tents to wait out the storm until morning. He had heard me approaching, and he ran out to meet me. "What the hell are you doing here, Nacho?" he shouted over the still, blustering wind. I told him I'd come to find him to ensure they were okay. He slapped me across the back and called me an idiot. I told him that I didn't need reminding twice. I was halfway up the pass before the wind turned me around. I didn't tell him about my run-in with Milan. I didn't even believe I'd really seen it myself. He chastised me again for being stupid and helped me pitch my tent. As I settled in for the night, I tried to understand what I'd seen. Whether the prankster of the mountains had saved my life, or whether the cold and the air had taken my mind for a while. Either way, I was grateful to be alive. Whatever it was, the wind had put me back on the right path. I found my brother and learned my lesson the hard way. Our family and families like us have tamed the untamable. We've made our homes in this land of fire, and I should have trusted my brother, my father, my grandfather, and everything they passed down to us. Call it a spirit, a trick of the mind, or whatever you want. I know what I saw, and I'm grateful that it happened. Lord knows what could have happened if it hadn't. Thank you, Timothy, Ignacio. Thank you, Ignacio, for sharing that with us. Myths and legends exist throughout our world, and there is a reason they are told and retold over the eons. Because somewhere in them is an unknown truth. I believe you may have seen that. Our next story comes from the mountains of Chile. Dear Timothy, my name is David, and I'm an American astronomer. A few years ago, I was working at CTIO, an observatory on top of a mountain in Chile. I regret to say that I haven't been back since, and I don't intend to. As a man of science, I like to think that everything can be explained, but this is something beyond all reason. I wanted to blame the altitude sickness I was suffering from at the time, but that just didn't wash. It was late. The skies were clear, the moon was gone, and I was alone at the instruments. I was hoping to observe an event far out in space. We were trying to calculate if a recently observed star had any planets. I heard this infernal toot-toot-toot noise as I entered the break area to get more coffee. The racket was insane, so loud that I assumed it must have been heard from the dormitories. I headed down the circular staircase of the observatory and out into the night and the cold mountain air. I heard the shrieking cries again, but it felt like a screwdriver being plunged and twisted into my ears this time. I clutched my head and called out in agony. When I looked up, I saw it. Grimacing in anger and hate, a human head was soaring above me in the sky. It had ugly, bat-like ears that beat against the sky as its wings. Its long black hair trailed behind it as it flew with incredible speed. Cried out again, the screeching tui-tui, a-tui-hey-tui. I cowered in a fetal position, expecting the worst, but it seemed to pass right over me. I heard it wailing out as it flew off into the distance. I ran back to the dorms and woke up my colleagues. One of the local staff members also woke up in the commotion. I tried to explain what I had seen in detail to my colleagues. The Chilean staff member asked my colleague, who spoke Spanish, what was happening. When my colleague translated, the Chilean man laughed. I asked what he was laughing at. He's saying, does the, gringo think he saw a chon-chon? My colleague told me. I asked what the hell that was supposed to be. That's when my colleague explained the concept to me. They were supposedly spirits that were once people. According to legend, they're a bad omen, imbued with evil and malice when a head is embalmed and removed from the body. When a certain ritual is performed, the severed head becomes a chon-chon. But as I said, my colleague and his local friend said they were fairy tales. The following day, I felt a little worse for wear, but otherwise okay before a call from the university back stateside came through. That's when I found out that I was being recalled back home. As it turned out, my mother had passed that night, and they had been unable to reach me until now. I was upset, grief-stricken, and in shock. When I flew back to the States, I was trying to wrap my head around that night. Did this spirit have anything to do with it, or was it simply mocking me and my misfortune? Was any of it even real? The whole event shook my worldview, which is why I've decided to write to you and your station, Timothy. I don't know if I'll get any closure from this. Still, if you are to document the paranormal, even from my skeptical and limited view, I'm sure this testimony qualifies. Yours sincerely, David. Thank you for that testimony, David. We are often dismissive of the legends and beliefs of others. We often forget that no matter where in the world we are, we all share a common belief that there is something out there beyond the pale of the ordinary world. No matter what forms the paranormal might take. If you have enjoyed this journey into unknown worlds, consider a like and subscribe. Click the bell icon if you want to be tuned in to the Paranormal Station when our latest testimonies are released. It will significantly support our work to document things that escape reason and logic in this world. This is your host, Timothy, broadcasting from my farm. Good night, listeners.